Me, but also you. The Pharaoh fast forwards his favorite foreign film, Powder Donut. Okay, what's my line?
The only line I see here on the script is get options based on your budget with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive.
Oh man, that's a tongue twister, huh? I'm sorry, I'm gonna need a few more minutes. Bulbous Walrus, the Bulbous Walrus.
The Name Your Price tool, only from Progressive.
The owl ran afoul of the comatose coxswain.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Welcome into the Golf Club Stand Studio. Big thanks to Jeff and Ron, $750 that they made a donation to the Ronald McDonald House, raising our total to $16,500. We are in the Golf Club Stand Studio. Hold your clubs upright while you play. No more bending over, no more wet grips. Give Jeff a call at 206-250-1868 if you're interested, or email him at jweird, W-E-R-R-E, at hotmail.com. All right, trade deadline about 2.5 hours away. Mariners, of course, making a move yesterday for Castillo, the reliever closer from the Tampa Bay Rays. Earlier, of course, Kendall Graveman to the Astros for Joe Smith and Abraham Toro. And we'll see if they do anything here in the remaining 2.5 hours. Joining us right now on the Beacon Plumbing Hotline, our Mariners ace reporter. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Corey Brock from The Athletic. Hello, Corey.
Puck, what's happening?
Well, this has been, no doubt about it, across baseball, the craziest trade deadline I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's wild.
No doubt.
It's wild, all these deals that are coming through. And I don't know, how much money do the Dodgers have? Jesus.
It's just an infinite amount of money. They have, people just bringing wheelbarrows full of cash up to the ballpark and just dumping it there. It's a terrible problem to have.
What do you expect? Do you think the Mariners have anything else left in them? Does Jerry have another move before the deadline?
Yeah, I think he could. And I think if you're asking me, well, you asked me what I thought. If I'm asking you what I think, I wouldn't think it would be terrible for them to go acquire another back-end starter to help out the rotation, just to give you some depth because – as we've talked about, Puck, they've completely burned through every reserve and then gone in the negative deficit, right? They're operating with 4 healthy starting pitchers for a while before they traded for Tyler Anderson. So I think it would make sense to add a starting pitcher for a prospect, not one of your top ones, because you do have the deeper farm system. So, that's it. But, I could see them being finished at this point too.
Do you like what they have done so far? Help me and others maybe make sense of it from a different perspective. That's not a fan who's like emotionally invested into it.
Well, yeah, and that's fine too. And I will never discount a fan's reaction or think that it's ridiculous or ludicrous because this is your team, right? This is a team you follow, the team you root for. But I will say this, sort of the view, I think, from 30,000 feet or whatever, or from the press box, is the Mariners' active roster and their 40-man roster is stronger today than it was Monday. And I think it would be really, really hard for someone to dispute that. And, no matter maybe some of the optics of this, and especially the Graveman trade to a team ahead of you in the standings, to a team that's standing, 60 feet away from you on the other side of the field, there were some factors that went into that, certainly, but and some hurt feelings in the clubhouse. I completely get that. I'm not dismissive of any of that, but I think at the end of the day, that was a good baseball trade.
How much stronger? Because it's interesting you bring that up. The Graveman's a better pitcher this year than Castillo. Now maybe in the long term, Castillo will be better. Toro, I'm intrigued about Abraham Toro because I don't know what Abraham Toro is yet, but. In 3 years in baseball, even though it includes 100 more plate appearances, Shed Long is the same player as Abraham Toro. He's put up the exact same numbers. So is he going to be a permanent second baseman, third baseman, or is he going to be a utility guy moving forward? I don't think we know the answer to that question yet. We don't.
And that's what these remaining 60 or so games or whatever we're at this point will sort of help determine. We're going to see a lot of him at second base. We know he can play third base. We know he could play some first base, and certainly in the American League you could DH too. But, for my money, a 24-year-old switch-hitting infielder who has a track record of hitting in the minor leagues, has power, which we've already seen. Here's the thing, Puck. If you had asked the Astros about Abraham Toro 3 months ago, and no doubt there were many other big league teams that have done this. I mean, this is a guy that's been on the radar of a lot of teams for quite some time. The Astros would have told you to scram. And maybe the events that happened Monday night with that, implosion from the Astros bullpen sort of was the last move to push us over the finish line, where they just got to the point where, like, hey, we got to do something to improve the bullpen. So we went out and acquired Kendall Graveman, who will be a free agent after the year. So he's an expiring asset, and realized they had to give up something to get something. So I like Toro. I won't sit here and pretend to know what he's going to be, but he's shown enough in his minor league track record and during his brief time in the big leagues to kind of dream on what he could be.
Is there one thing that raised my antenna, and probably other people as well, is why would the Rays thicken a playoff race, one of the teams that are favorites to get back to the World Series? Why would they trade Diego Castillo, their closer? And something, it worries me when I hear that, just because do they know something that the Mariners don't know about it?
And I've noticed certainly the Rays have, like many other teams, have had issues with injuries, but it sounds like they may be getting some of these guys back pretty quickly. It's a fair question. I don't think there's anything nefarious going on here, Puck. I just don't. I mean, the track record that Castillo has had and the performance this year recently has been good. It kind of does raise an eyebrow, but you know what? Boy, the Rays just sort of seem to get this thing figured out time after time, don't they? They just have guys appear out of thin air who end up pitching important innings in important games for them. So, but I really think that it sounded like they were getting some of their guys back from the DL, if not this weekend, fairly soon. So, again, I don't think they're trying to pull the wool over on the Mariners here, but I guess time will tell.
The every Mariner, longtime Mariner fan is scarred from trades, and including me. I got scars all over me. And so I expect that Austin Shenton at some point in about 2-3 years will be an all-star. And that's just kind of how it feels that it's gone. What did the Mariners give up in him, and then what did the Rays see in him that maybe the Mariners did not?
Yeah, I don't think that this one didn't hurt a little bit, and Jerry DiPoto even mentioned that it was, quote, painful to do. But, sometimes you have to swallow hard, and, you got to trade something to get something in return. And Shenton is really, his stock has risen just this season, Puck. He started out in Everett, and now he's up in Double-A, but the power's shown up, a very productive bat, third baseman, although he could bounce around the infield. I think he's going to be a good player. And, I guess it surprised me in the sense that, the Mariners don't have a ton of really exciting young position players, other than aside from the Cal Raleigh, Jared Kelnick, Julio Rodriguez, Noelve Marte's down the system a ways. So it surprised me that they would move him and maybe not a pitcher, but that's how it goes. And then I dug this up this morning. Not that it took any great digging, Puck, but Abraham Toro is 13 months older than Austin Shenton. So I think once you got Toro, it didn't make Shenton right. Completely irrelevant, but probably made it a little bit easier to move him.
The not to say what happened, but obviously the Twins are in a market here. Last thing for you, Corey, of getting rid of guys. If Brian Buxton, it seems to be being made available from Minnesota, center fielder, 27 years of age. Should Seattle be in on him?
Fair question. I think they still need offense. They're still going to have to augment there probably either the rest of today or during the offseason somehow. Maybe, but again, Jerry's been very steadfast in this that, they're not going to mortgage the future greatly to acquire players. Maybe Buxton would be someone who'd make him reconsider that a little bit. But so far they've held firm, and they have gotten a ton of hits, Puck, on these young guys in their system. I think Jerry said that the league is well aware of what they have in the farm and probably very, really like what the Mariners have and the pieces they have. So that ultimately that's a compliment. But I think it would take an awful lot to get them to move off any of those young guys. And you would have to move one of those guys you're uncomfortable moving to get Buxton.
Yeah, and I just bring that up. Would it be a commentary on how they view their outfield, which they have sold for good reason to the Mariners community for the last few years of Kelenic, Lewis, and Rodriguez? It would scream to me that they're not confident Lewis can ever play out there again. And that Kelenic is they just aren't sold on Kelenic yet.
Yeah, I mean, it would certainly, as you said earlier, in regard to something else, it would be kind of it would raise your eyebrows a little bit because he would help you. He certainly would help you, but you would sort of wonder where those other guys now currently stand in the eyes of the Mariners. I seem to think by the end of the regular season, Puck, we're going to have a lot of answers about a lot of guys, and it's going to make it easier for them to push forward in the offseason in terms of the holes they truly need to fill.
Appreciate it, Corey. Great stuff, man. Thank you so much for doing it today.
All right, Puck. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, you as well. There he is, Corey Brock from The Athletic, covering the Mariners. Corey, one of the best there in the business. It has been a wild day on the trade front. Guys are flying off other teams, man. It is nuts. We will update you coming up next on just a crazy day in the world of Major League Baseball.
Sun, surf, and seduction collide as 4 Americans return to exotic islands, hoping their sexy romances can turn into forever. Love in Paradise, the Caribbean, a 90-day story, streaming now only on Discovery Plus. Start your free trial. Terms apply.